Dear ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will be starting shortly. Уважаемые участники, прошу занимать свои места. Мы скоро начнем. Сәлеметсіздер ме, құрметті ханымдар мен мырзалар?
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome you all at this high-level meeting organized by Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the states and the League of Arab States. The climate change-related topics have seen increasing debates, let's say. Specifically, some call this agenda a con job. But is it a con job? And I think this roundtable is specifically aimed at discussing whether climate change-related agenda is a con job or whether it provides us with opportunities to decarbonize our economies and create new points of growth. What we have seen, this event is being organized by Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the League of Arab States. And what I really want to say that despite all these discussions and all these proliferating rhetorics that are happening globally, we actually have seen tremendous leadership in this part of the world. Specifically, very recently, I read an interesting article, an interesting analysis by Carbon Brief, which actually concluded that China, being one of the largest emitters of carbon emissions, has for the first time reversed the upward trend. So in other words, we can assume that China has reached the peaking of carbon emissions, which will be followed by gradual and steady decline in carbon emissions. So in other words, we have seen a tremendous leadership here, and it will be really important for us to have this discussion around climate change and sustainable energy. Speaking of the sustainability of the energy sector, I think these two things are very much intertwined for our regions. Why? Because, to give you an example of Kazakhstan, about 80% of all emissions come from the energy sector. In other words, basically decarbonization is an energy transition. But the title of this session is Sustainable Energy, and I would like to throw another interesting question. What is sustainable? How do we define if the energy is sustainable? How do we understand the sustainability of certain energy sources? And I hope that all these answers will be, these questions will be answered by our high-level panelists. And we have very long list of speakers, but very short time. And without further ado, I would like first to pass this floor to Vice Minister of Energy of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Zherkeshev Sanjar, to give us his welcoming remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and partners, good afternoon. On behalf of Kazakhstan, I'm pleased to welcome you to Astana. It's a great honor for us to host the first joint meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the League of Arab States. I would like to ask to please excuse His Excellency the Minister of Energy of Kazakhstan, Mr. Akinjanov, as he's been called for a meeting with the President of Kazakhstan. We can truly call today's event a historic moment. We're laying the foundation for direct dialogue between two prominent regional organizations. Together, these organizations cover a significant portion of the global economy and energy sectors. For Kazakhstan, it's a privilege to take the initiative in launching this format. Our agenda is very concrete: to develop common approaches to climate policy, launch technology exchange for the green transition, and ensure our energy security. Our focus is on practical matters. We will discuss climate project financing, the creation of modern energy infrastructure, and the deployment of breakthrough technologies from carbon capture to hydrogen energy. Special attention will be paid to coordinating preparations for the regional environmental summit, which Astana will host in April 2026. I'm confident our discussion will be productive. To lead this discussion, I'm pleased to give the floor to the well-known expert in international environmental cooperation, Ms. Zulfiya Suleymenova. Thank you for your attention. I wish everyone a fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your welcoming remarks and for making it very short. Indeed, one of the major ideas is to really exchange on the ongoing policies, create common approaches to climate change-related policy, technological exchange, and creating modern energy infrastructure. Thank you for your intervention. And now I would like to really move towards the high-level discussion. And with that, I would like to first pass the floor to Deputy General Secretary of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Said Murodzada. Mr. Said Murodzada.
Thank you so much, dear Ms. Suleymenova, dear Mr. Jarkeshov, distinguished ministers and heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I have the honor to convey the best wishes of the Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Mr. Nurlan Yermekbayev, as well as to thank the Republic of Kazakhstan for the initiative to hold the first ever joint high-level session uniting the countries of the SCO and the League of Arab States. The SCO and the League of Arab States occupy vast territories from Eurasia to Middle East and North Africa, where the significant part of the world population lives. The SCO and Arab League countries are integral part of the family of Asian states. Dialogue between our organizations, countries, and regions is of particular value against the backdrop of rapid change in the world caused by turbulence and continuing tensions in global politics and economy. Dear friends, climate change and associated rising temperatures, land degradation, water shortages, extreme weather events, growing risks to food and energy security are affecting the entire world, and the SCO and Arab League regions are no exception and are fully experiencing the consequences. Climate change is no longer a theory, it is a reality that we experience every day. Responding to this threat requires coordinated and integrated action. Today's meeting is not just an exchange of views, but a clear signal that the SCO and the Arab League are joining forces to jointly respond to global challenges. The SCO member states pay special attention to overcoming the negative consequences of climate change. But in the framework of our organization, there is a meeting of ministers and departments of the SCO member states responsible for environmental protection. Nowadays, we are working to launch a separate mechanism, an ad hoc working group on climate change. The process of bringing into force the agreement on cooperation in the field of environmental protection, which was signed on July 4 last year in Astana, forms a solid legal basis for practical cooperation. The preparation of the draft agreement between the governments of the SCO member states on cooperation in the field of combating climate change continues nowadays. 2025 was declared the year of sustainable development of the SCO, within the framework of which many events were held, including on environmental and energy topics. An example of active public diplomacy in the interest of overcoming the consequences of climate change was the recent tree planting campaign. We called it SCO Friendship Forest, which we held this year in Beijing. At the same time, we are clear that climate change sees no political borders. This is a challenge that requires a collective response. That is why the SCO attached great importance to the development of partnerships with international organizations, in particular with Arab League, to jointly respond to climate challenges. We see special potential for deepening cooperation with the League of Arab States. Our regions are united by a common desire to protect natural resources, develop renewable energy, and strengthen the green economy. The transition to sustainable, low-carbon, and affordable energy is one of the most important steps on this path. The SCO member states are actively developing renewable energy sources, digitalizing the energy sector, and improving energy efficiency. And I would like to note in particular the rich potential of the Arab League countries in the field of solar and wind energy. Advanced initiatives in this field of green hydrogen are emerging. Dear friends, during the Tianjin summit earlier last month, the heads of SCO member states spoke in favor of expanding inclusive and mutually beneficial cooperation in the field of energy, progressively increasing the sustainability of energy production and supply chain. We have adopted the special statement of the Council of Heads of States on the development of sustainable energy. And we have adopted the roadmap for the implementation of the strategy for development of energy cooperation for the period up to 2030. The Chinese presidency presented new platforms for multilateral cooperation in the China SCO format, in particular in the field of energy, green industry, and etc. And our leaders came up with a number of new initiatives focused on the urgent tasks of the climate agenda, energy transition, and solving water problems. We welcome the decision to adopt a joint declaration on climate cooperation and sustainable energy today by the countries of the two organizations following our session. This is an important political document that ensures the development of cooperation in the field of climate policy. I'm convinced that the joint efforts of the SCO and Arab League can give an additional impetus to the global climate agenda, promote the development of green energy, and ensure food and water security. And I'm confident that today's joint declaration will become a solid foundation for long-term cooperation of two organizations that will benefit not only our regions, but also the entire planet. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, I would like to cordially congratulate the Kazakhstan on the successful holding the first ever, as I once again mentioned, the first ever joint session of the SCO and the League of Arab States. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us the priorities and the actions that are being undertaken, that are underway in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And now I'd like to move to League of Arab States, Director of Environment, Mr. Mahmoud Fathallah.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to address you once again today. The focus of this session, climate change and sustainable energy, is of great significance to all of us. In particular, I would like to highlight the importance of building climate resilience within our energy system. This includes enhancing our ability to adapt to recover from climate-related risks. Key actions involve identifying vulnerabilities to extreme weather and the climate impact, strengthening and upgrading our energy infrastructure, diversifying energy sources with an emphasis on the renewables, utilizing smart grids and advanced technologies for improving flexibility and implementing robust regulations and strategies to support resilience, all of which require considerable finance and financial investment. The League of Arab States plays a pivotal coordinating role in environmental, climate, and energy policies through its institutional mechanism, which include specialized ministerial councils. The Council of Arab Ministers responsible for the environment and the Arab Ministers Water Council, and addressing the link between climate change and water scarcity, the Arab Ministerial Council of Electricity. In addition, regional initiatives such as Arab Initiative for Sustainable Development, the Arab Renewable Energy Framework, and the Arab Food Security Strategy demonstrate our commitment to progress. We also engage actively with an international partner, including the EU, UN, SCO, and AU, to ensure alignment of Arab climate priorities with global efforts. In this context, the League of Arab States and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization signed a memorandum of understanding in September 22. I am confident that we can build upon this formal channel for joint activities and consultations as exemplified by today's meeting. I look forward to the valuable discussions ahead and the insights they will bring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fathallah. And now I would like to pass this floor to General Secretary of SCO, Mr. Ambassador Kairat Sarabhai.
Thank you, dear Zulfia. Thank you so much for inviting SCO Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia to this important topic and discussed with my good partners from Shanghai Cooperation Organization as well as from the League of Arab States. Climate change and sustainable energy are shared imperatives for all SCO member states, forming three of priority areas of cooperation within our organization, namely energy security, sustainable developments, and environment protection. The correlation between climate change and energy security is a key driver of regional stability, security, and economic transformation. SCO brings together a diverse group of Asian nations with complementary strengths in traditional energy, renewables, and technology. As many SCO member states are also part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization or League of Arab States and other multilateral forums, SCO serves as a bridge for cross-regional climate and energy collaboration. SCO supports inclusive dialogue on energy transition that reflects both the developmental needs and climate goals of its member states. Transitioning to low-carbon energy systems is central to our collective response to climate change, which should be just and inclusive. The development of green and sustainable economies is a shared strategic goal, requiring a tailored mix of renewables, clean technologies, and efficient traditional sources, and above all, accessible climate finance for adaptation and mitigation. I would take this opportunity to mention a few conferences and workshops and seminars held by SCO relevant to this meeting. An international conference on development of green technologies and renewable energy resources in the context of low-carbon development was organized by Kazakhstan in 2021 to discuss issues on climate change and transition to the green economy. And thank you, Ms. Suleymanova, you led this process. A workshop on the theme Renewable Energy for Energy Security held at Huanzhong Agricultural University of China, again in 2021, we had a seminar on cooperation in the area of hydrogen energy, as well as SCO Urban Green and Low Carbon Development Seminar, which was organized by China in 2022 for deepening the cooperation among SCO member states in the field of green and low carbon development. All these events were participated by plenty numbers of researchers. During the 6th SCO summit, the President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev of Kazakhstan proposed to hold a high-level conference on environmental issues in Astana. Thus, first SCO ministerial conference on environmental issues was held in August 2024 under the able leadership of Minister Yerlan Nsambai. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. This conference resulted in a high-level statement committing to enhance cooperation and alignment with global frameworks such as the UNFCCC's Paris Agreement and SDGs. The conference acknowledged the important need for proactive and sustained efforts in addressing environmental issues in the SCO region through inter alia fostering regional cooperation, funding access, joint green initiatives among member states, and enhancing Asia's role in global climate diplomacy. Climate impacts such as water scarcity, desertification, and extreme weather directly affect energy production and infrastructure across Asia. SCO promotes regional strategies for adaptation, including water management, resilient infrastructure, as well as early warning system. Greater collaboration with international financial institutions, multilateral donors, and private investors is essential to scale renewable energy and decarbonization efforts. Kazakhstan's initiative to host the UN Regional Environmental Summit next year will provide a historic platform to deepen regional partnerships and align its efforts with global climate goals. We started already our discussion with the host country, how SCO can contribute to this big event. Azerbaijan's current SCO chairmanship and host of COP29 uniquely position it to lead regional efforts on climate change and energy security. Outcomes of the COP29 in Baku, exactly Baku Call on Climate Action and Baku Climate Unity Pact are well aligned with SCO's goal. The path to a sustainable energy future requires joint action, inclusive dialogue, and sustained investment. SCO stands ready to work with all partners, governments, businesses, and civil society to achieve climate resilient, energy secure, and prosperous society. Once again, I would like to thank for inviting SCO to this important panel and wish us the successful results. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador. I would, if I may summarize the three speeches by three international organizations, we actually see an increasing integration of environmental issues into the agenda of these organizations, and that really reflects the priorities of the member states and the priority that is being given to environmental issues. I've heard about the sustainable development and that there's going to be the year of sustainable development in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But when we speak about sustainable development, the big question that arises is what is sustainable development? According to official definitions, basically sustainable development integrates and considers the three dimensions: social, environmental, and economic. In other words, it is basically the answer to the question, how can we provide an economic growth that it doesn't compromise our environmental stability and sustainability, while also providing social justice? So while we are growing economically, it also has to be providing the justice to the people and increase their well-being. But at the same time, sustainable development, it also considers the development in a manner in a manner that does not also compromise the ability of future generations to satisfy their needs and so on. So in that sense, climate change-related issues, they are basically integral part of sustainable development. And here I heard two interesting ideas. First, we are speaking about the energy sector as the sector of mitigation. Basically, how can we transform the energy sector in a manner so that to reduce our carbon emissions, so that to reduce our impact on climate. But at the same time, I heard about the adaptation-related issues. Indeed, during extreme weather events, unfortunately, our energy infrastructure becomes increasingly vulnerable to I mean, we've seen in many different countries where because of the extreme weather events, the access to electricity or to heat is being cut, where the infrastructure becomes the victim of the situations. In this situation, we ask ourselves, how can we create the infrastructure in a way that it doesn't become the victim of the extreme weather events, and in which it is able to provide affordable and stable access to the energy resources. And here we also heard about the strong support of the organizations to President Tokayev's initiative on conducting the Regional Ecological Summit in 2026. Specifically, the Regional Ecological Summit is going to basically focus on the triple planetary crisis, that is the pollution, climate change, and unprecedented loss of biodiversity. The three issues are very much connected, and here we find a lot of space to contribute. I believe that the member states of the three organizations will be keen to explore the opportunities on how to utilize this platform to really bring their member states together, but also to really promote concrete actions and concrete initiatives. And this was basically a follow-up to our next speaker, and I have a pleasure of giving this the microphone to the Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources of Kazakhstan, His Excellency Yerlan Sanbayev.
Рахмет. Құрметті әріптестер, ханымдар мен мырзалар,
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for Kazakhstan, it is a great honor to host the high-level meeting of the member countries of Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the League of Arab States under the Kazakhstan Kazenergy Forum. This session is of strategic meaning here in Astana because we are here integrating the political significance of two major regional institutions, and we are looking for common solutions for the future. Our countries have big distances, but we are united by the same problems: climate change, lack of water resources, land degradation, threat to the food security, and the need for the just energy transition are the common issues for all of us. This is why today's dialogue is very important, because it would allow not only sharing experience, but also find the common points for development. Our regions have great capacity in terms of solar and wind energy, and down to the hydro solutions, local adaptation and investment projects. Today, together, we are making a very important step towards cooperation in climate and sustainable energy. Together with Shanghai Cooperation Organization and League of Arab States, who have adopted a joint statement on Paris Agreement, and this document reflects our common view regarding the goals of Paris Agreement, and we are prepared to work together. It's a signal of preparedness of our regions to speak from the same front and make common actions. Another important step would be the regional environmental summit that will take place in Astana together with UN in 2026. And this summit will be completed with the action plan for 2026. This program will put together the measures regarding the climate change, adaptation to climate change, protection of food security, water security, management of natural resources, cyclic economy, and solutions based on water use. The program will become an efficient tool for achieving the results and will be transferred into the specific project and investments. The attention will be paid to the issues of climate and environment. There will be sessions devoted to the Aral and Caspian Seas. These topics go far beyond the single country operations and will be related to the sustainability and security. And Kazakhstan is prepared to contribute to these goals. And this year we plan to update the contributions on a national level that will include a reduction of emissions. So we also defined the targets for adaptation. And in addition, it is for the first time we developed the adaptation plan, national plan, to take measures in the most vulnerable sectors, such as agriculture, water, forestry, and civil defense. Distinguished colleagues, today we have a good opportunity to join our efforts between SCO and LAG to transfer these actions into the specific measures. And Kazakhstan is a bridge between the two organizations, and I'm sure that the joint statement that will be taken together will become a strong platform for the future solutions. The environmental summit in Astana will define the environmental and climatic agenda of our regions for the next 5 years. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Your Excellency, you mentioned several times the concrete actions, and the Regional Ecological Summit in 2026 will be focusing on creating and establishing a very concrete agenda for the region, but also really adopting concrete actions and concrete projects. I think it is very timely and very important, given that we don't have time in terms of climate, and it is time for us not to speak but to act on climate change. And the focus of Kazakhstan on creating concrete plans and concrete programs that could address in terms of mitigation, both mitigation and adaptation, is very important. And here I would like to, Minister also mentioned about the impacts of climate change. We have been seeing the degradation of lands, we have been seeing the extreme weather events, but also one thing that we have been seeing is the very accelerated loss of the glaciers. And here, one of the countries which is at the forefront with the glacier loss is Tajikistan. And I think in Tajikistan, you can really see you can really see and feel how climate change is impacting this country, and really understand how important it is for us to act fast. And with that, we would be very happy and interested to learn the perspective of Tajikistan, and I would like to pass this floor to Minister of Energy and Water Resources of Tajikistan, His Excellency Minister Daler Jumashev-Fakir.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Прежде всего, позвольте выразить глубокую...
First of all, let me express deep gratitude to our colleagues from Kazakhstan for their warm hospitality and reception, and for organizing this high-level session between SCO and League of Arab States on sustainable energy and climate change. We gathered here in the hard times where the climate change is not just a threat, but is a reality that is challenging the whole humanity. Under these conditions, all of us, and in particular the member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and League of Arab States, who has colossal economic and environmental capacity and human capacity, we are facing a major challenge. We can remain where we are, but we have to make some steps and do the global green transformation. Our task is not just to adapt our energy strategy, but to make a strategic revolution so that it would become the foundation for our sustainable and prosperous future.
Given all this, we do understand the growing threat of climate change, and we are concerned with its impact on our economy. It is important to understand that the total GHG emissions in Tajikistan amounts for less than 0.223% per year, but at the same time, we're among top 5 the most vulnerable countries to climate change. That's what Madam Moderator has already mentioned today. The accelerated climate change and global warming introduce their corrections that lead to the revision of the global energy agenda. These processes also impacted the energy system of Tajikistan. We have faced new threats in this sector over the recent years, and they're mainly related to hydrogeological issues. The huge volume of water resources accumulated at hydropower plants because of the glaciers that unfortunately melt at a very high rate. According to the expert estimate, only in 20th century, the glaciers of Tajikistan lost of about 20% of their total volume. Despite this, it is important to highlight that hydrological potential of Tajikistan is really huge, and it is estimated in the amount of more than 527,000 kilowatt of energy per year. For example, Central Asian energy market amounts to more than 400 billion kilowatt hours. So this is a huge potential and huge opportunities, not only for us, but for all the countries in the region. Therefore, using the huge resources of clean and environmentally clean energy in Tajikistan helps us to mitigate climate change consequences, and it can also transform Tajikistan into the country with flourishing economy. We pay a lot of attention to the use of hydrological resources of Tajikistan, but also to their rational use, which is very important for the development of our country and the whole region. In order to adapt to the existing reality, Tajikistan plans to increase generation with the use of renewables. Up until 2030, the installed capacity of generation with the use of solar and wind energy should amount not at least to 2,000 megawatts. We have already started practical steps in that direction. We need to activate our common cooperation on common issues. We should focus on the key role of renewables in this process. And also we need to focus on the available international mechanisms for funding and financing green projects and innovative technologies that will enable us to significantly decrease carbon footprint. A special attention in our discussions we should give to ensuring energy security, and we need to search for optimal balance between conventional energy sources and renewables. It is also important to have regional cooperation, as only via joint efforts we will be able to adapt to climatic changes.
The Central Asian market where we are today, where Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan traditionally continue developing the fossil fuel source of energies, while both countries are becoming also leaders in the regions in terms of developing of the renewable energy. And I think the water resources such as in Tajikistan and Kyrgyz Republic can be, it's a best hybrid in terms of energy balance when it comes to the thermal power plants and the renewable energy. So there are lots of synergies rather than place for competitions between the members of the two organizations, but also within the region. Уверен, что сегодняшняя
I believe that today's session will become an effective platform for open exchange of experience and strengthening cooperation, which is more important to develop particular joint solutions aimed at ensuring sustainable, safe energy future of our countries and for future generations. And the result of today's session has special strategic significance, and it is an important contribution to the upcoming Regional Ecological Summit that will take place in Astana April next year with the partnership with UN agencies. In conclusion, I would like to wish all of us fruitful work and constructive dialogue. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much. Indeed, you have mentioned glaciers. Myself, I had an honor to visit Toyosu glacier, the only glacier in Central Asia, where there were continuous observations since last century. Indeed, the scale of melting is really huge. We have already lost 1/3 of glaciers. According to the sixth report of IPCC, states that glaciers of Himalaya region and Central Asia region will continue to melt up until 2040. And between 2020 to 2040, we will experience the peak level of glaciers melting, and as a result, the peak of the flow and the use of mountain rivers. Then there will be a decrease after that. Up until 2030, a lot of glaciers will disappear without any opportunities for their survival. And you're right saying, expressing this interesting idea that we need to find correct and optimal balance. When we talk about energy development and energy security and the use of conventional energy sources and renewables, so here the key question is it's more the question related to the specificity of our energy system that's determining the continuation of the use of fossil fuels, because there is a need to generate heating power and there is a need to ensure the stable base load capacity. Indeed, renewables are being actively developed in our region, and they require the development of flexible capacities, balancing of the grids. And here the use of hydropower of Tajikistan and the use of regional cooperation and exchange all this is becoming even more important and relevant given the current situation. And now I would like to give the floor to the next speaker, representative of the Kyrgyz Republic, which is also a mountainous country that promotes the mountainous agenda on the global arena. And we would like to understand your perspective towards climate change, and we would like to find out the policies you develop as Kyrgyzstan can also promote and help the region to decrease its carbon dependence. I would like to introduce the first Vice Minister of Energy from Kyrgyz Republic, Mr. Emilbek Ismanov. Please, over to you. Good day, distinguished participants of today's meeting. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Minister of Energy of the Republic of Kazakhstan and organizers of this large-scale event, Kaz Energy Association, for warm reception and for hospitality in the modern and dynamic center Astana. We have common borders, culture, and traditions between our countries, and we cooperate in the spirit of brotherhood, goodwill, and strategic partnership. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to welcome you at today's session, which is dedicated to strengthening multilateral cooperation within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and League of Arab States regarding the climate change matters. Our country has significant energy resources. Over many years, the country has steadily developed sustainable energy. The majority of generation is done with the use of hydropower plants. Besides hydropower, the country also actively implements green technologies via the use of solar and wind energy. We implement a number of investment projects with international partners in this regard. Distinguished Mr. Japarov, the President of the Kyrgyz Republic, in 2021 stated that the shift towards sustainable economy and renewables development is our only path of development in the context of climate change. Our country has a goal to decrease GHG emissions by 16%, and by 2050 we should achieve carbon neutrality in our country. This strategic task reflects the political will and practical steps in the direction of environmentally clean and sustainable future. In this regard, high significance for achieving carbon neutrality goals by the country the high significance is the investment projects implemented together with Chinese partners. We have a large-scale work done on the reconstruction of hydropower plants. Toktauska and other hydropower plants, and also all these projects are aimed at increasing installed capacity, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of the energy system that lays down the foundation for long-term sustainable development and green transformation of the Kyrgyz Republic. Together with the development of hydropower, our country actively stimulates investments into renewables by providing state preferences and guarantees of rights protection and interests and protection of interests of investors. We have signed a number of large agreements on a number of major projects in the area of solar and wind energy. We have reached agreements on other investments projects with solar and wind generation. We work on attracting investments into energy storage systems, and also we attract investments in order to improve qualification and train our people. And also we can see interest from our Chinese partners towards development of green energy, and it's a bridge for the cooperation between the SCO and LAS countries. Investors are highly interested in investing into green energy of the country. The state is ready to ensure 100% purchase of the generated energy. The implementation of these projects will create new jobs and will lead to the implementation of new technologies and will contribute significantly towards the achievement of environmental goals. Distinguished participants, the green energy is a key topic of international cooperation. Together with investors, we have implemented many major projects that strengthen the energy security of the Kyrgyz Republic, that contribute to the development of the national energy industry. For Kyrgyzstan, the development of clean energy is our strategic objective, and its contribution to the achievement of climate balance and regional stability and bright future of our next generations. We would like to cordially invite all stakeholders to work together. I believe that In the course of today's event, the representatives of organizations, companies, and business community from the whole world will have thorough discussions of energy transformation and green development. Distinguished colleagues, distinguished participants of this session, I would like to mention that since September this year, the Kyrgyz Republic assumed a chair position in the SCO, and I would like to use this opportunity to invite you to the Kyrgyz Republic and to invite you to participate in the upcoming session of the Ministries of Energies of the member states of the SCO that will take place next year in 2026. I wish all of you fruitful work during this Energy Week. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your invitation. And we would like to wish you good luck during your chairmanship in the SCO. We believe that it will bring new inspirations, new inspiration and new opportunities within the framework of your work.
One thing that was actually raised and one thing that you have emphasized is the importance of the creating investments and creating the right guarantees and the favorable environment for investors. I think this has been one of the very important issues that we have been discussing in the last couple of years within the COP agendas, Conference of the Parties to the Framework Convention on Climate Change. We have been discussing the issues of new collective and quantified goal and so on. And here I would like to really hear from one of the candidate states. I will move to Azerbaijan later, but first I would like to ask Turkey to share your perspective. We know that Turkey is one of the candidate states to host the COP next year, climate COP next year in Turkey, and we would be very happy to learn how you, as a country, envision this climate agenda moving forward, given all the global political, let's say, landscape. And with that, I would like to give this floor to the Deputy Minister of Energy and Natural Resources of Turkey, Ahmet Berat Çunkar.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, dear ministers, distinguished participants, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to be here for Kazakhstan Energy Week, addressing this joint Shanghai Cooperation Organization Arab League high-level meeting. I would like to thank our hosts for bringing us together in this critical forum. The accelerating pace of climate change is no longer a distant concern, but a daily reality that affects our economies, societies, and security. Extreme weather shows that energy policy is inseparable from environmental responsibility, even as global demand continues to rise. This dual challenge defines the new energy imperative of our time. Against the annual primary energy demand increase of Turkey by 4% in the last 2 decades, our second NDC aims to achieve an emissions reductions of 466 million tons by 2035, and to lower our total emissions to 643 million tons. Distinguished participants, Turkey's own experience illustrates both the opportunities and the complexities of this transition. Our vision is to ensure reliable, affordable, and diversified energy while advancing toward our 2053 net zero target through a strategy built on 4 pillars: security, sustainability, innovation, and cooperation. Renewable energy lies at the center of this vision. Turkey has surpassed 120 gigawatts of installed capacity, with 73 gigawatts from renewables, about 61% of the total. This means more than double of the 31.5 gigawatt renewable energy installed capacity since the adoption of the Paris Agreement by Turkey. Turkey now ranks 5th in Europe and 11th in the world in terms of installed renewable energy capacity. Moreover, by 2035, we aim to quadruple solar and wind to 120 gigawatts, supported by reforms that accelerate investment. We are making significant investments in transmission, storage, and digitalization. Alongside expanding interconnection capacity with our neighbors, we plan to implement a 40 gigawatt HVDC corridor by 2035. At the same time, Turkey recognizes that during the transition process, hydrocarbons will continue to play a vital role in balancing the system, ensuring reliability and sustaining economic development. Apart from the onshore exploration activities, we are expanding oil and gas operations supported by one of the world's most advanced offshore fleets, including 6 drilling vessels and 2 seismic research ships operated by our national petroleum and oil and gas company, TPAO. Our recent discoveries, including the Sakarya gas field in the Black Sea and the Gabar oil field discovery in southeastern Turkey, strengthen domestic production and our energy security. In terms of natural gas, Turkey has upgraded its LNG, storage and interconnector infrastructure, enhancing flexibility and resilience. This enables us to meet domestic demand and strengthen the regional energy security, southeastern Europe in particular. By reinforcing our role as a regional trade center, we support both our own transition and that of our partners. Nuclear energy is another pillar of our clean energy future. The Akkuyu nuclear power plant, with a capacity of 4.8 gigawatts, is nearing its completion, and we are preparing for 2 additional plants while exploring small modular reactors. By 2050, our goal is to reach 20 gigawatts of nuclear capacity. Energy efficiency and innovation also remains our priorities. Under our 2024 to 2030 action plan, we will mobilize over $20 billion US, cutting energy use by 16% and reducing emissions by around 100 million tons of CO2. We are also advancing carbon capture, smart grids, hydrogen, and critical minerals, positioning Turkey as a key player in the clean energy transition. But no country can succeed alone. Regional partnerships are vital. Our combined strengths allow us to shape the future of energy together. Turkey is committed to strengthening interconnections, expanding the Caspian Green Energy Corridor, and building new frameworks for electricity and gas trade that will enhance resilience. On the occasion of this unique forum, I would like to announce and also congratulate Turkish Petroleum and Kazmunaygas on their agreement concerning the joint evaluation of 2 hydrocarbon fields. We would like to see more cooperation between our national companies. Distinguished participants, as I conclude, let me emphasize that Turkey stands ready to work with all stakeholders to ensure a just and inclusive transition. Together, we can ensure our regions lead in building a sustainable, secure, and prosperous energy future for all generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is very impressive what Turkey is doing, and from what I have calculated, I think Turkey has about 60% of renewables in the energy system. That is a lot, and that I think really elevates the question of storage and transmission infrastructure. To give you an example, last year, 2024, was the year, it's not related to Turkey, but to European Union. In 2024, they reached the absolute peak in the hours when they had the negative price on energy, which was over 7,000 hours. So in other words, they were producing from renewables more electricity than they could consume, and the power companies were forced to pay the consumers for consumption. That actually really, this is one of the interesting problems of the energy security and really creating these stable energy systems where we are able to really balance and make sure that the energy supply is stable, and that indeed really raises the question of storage. Do we have enough storage? Do we have the type of storage that can help us integrate the renewables more, let's say, more swiftly into existing energy systems? You also mentioned about the support of Turkey to expanding the Caspian Green Energy Corridor. This was one of the interesting outcomes of the Baku climate COP. Last year, I think most of people who are present here were part of the climate COP, which happened to be very close to us for the first time in history. I was very honored to support the government of Azerbaijan in the capacity of high-level co-payer on transparency, jointly with the special representative of Italy. And I think here we're discussing a lot about, specifically about investments, about the need to transform and to reform the existing financial architecture, so that to make sure that the countries like Kazakhstan, like China, like Tajikistan, like Turkey and others have the access to affordable, accessible and available financial resources at, let's say, at proper rates and so on. We've paid a lot of, we spent lots of time discussing this, and I think the Baku COP was absolute success, given that we were able to negotiate the NCQG, which should be the let's say, the basis for increased investments and decarbonization in developing countries. And we would be very happy to hear from Azerbaijan, first of all, about we know that Azerbaijan has a tremendous leadership in climate agenda, and specifically promoting the transmission of green energy from Central Asia. We saw the trilateral agreement that was signed in promotion of these aspects, but also about the outcomes and how do you see moving forward with this agenda. And here I would like to pass this floor to Deputy Minister of Energy of Azerbaijan, Orhan Zeynalov.
Thank you, Zulfiya Khanım. Distinguished ministers, dear colleagues, I'm extremely happy to represent Azerbaijan Minister of Energy at this distinguished forum, and I would like to congratulate our Kazakh brothers for the outstanding event. The content-wise, it's a fantastic event, and Azerbaijan is an ally and strategic partner of Kazakhstan, is extremely happy to participate and contribute. And I think the success of this forum and generally the success of Kazakhstan, Central Asia is likewise the success of Azerbaijan, because we are part of the Central Asia. I think the theme of this session is twofold, actually. The first dimension is, of course, how to ensure the energy security without compromising the sustainable development, but also to take in consideration to the resilient climate pathways. For Azerbaijan, we think that you have to pay attention to all sources of energy. Traditional energy is very important. Last year, Azerbaijan produced 50 BCM of natural gas. Natural gas is a very important transitional fuel in the energy transition, and half of that, more than 25 BCM, we've exported. 13 BCM to Europe. We've also started with our Turkish brothers export to Syria recently with SOCAR and BOTAŞ partnership, and I think that the gas flowing to the Syria for the future electricity generation, which will also open opportunities in the Middle East as well. And I think this is a very important element. But at the same time, it's important to also ensure that the investments also being kept, investment in the traditional energy sector to be aligned with the real pace of the energy transition. Because sometimes what we are seeing in, I don't want to name the regions, but some IFIs, some regions, they are really against the investments in the traditional sector, which is really hampering the sustainable development and energy security of the certain regions and the countries. Just for today, we have the request from certain countries, not the part of the Southern Gas Corridor, up to 14 BCM of additional natural gas. It means that you have still need some upstream investments in the natural gas. And I'm really happy that the SOCAR and the Kazımlaygas had some very good talks yesterday and also in the recent past. And it's very important to ensure the transit of sustainable transit of energy resources from Kazakhstan, Central Asia through the Caspian Sea to Azerbaijan. In Azerbaijan, we're targeting increasing the share of renewables in the installed capacity. With the current pace, the share of renewables will be 38% by 2030 installed capacity and 42.5% by 2035. Within the next 2 years, we're expecting $3 billion investment in 10 renewable projects, 8 solar, 2 wind projects, and generally they will generate 2 gigawatt additional capacities. It's very important to ensure the flexibility of the grid. So in that case, the storage battery systems is very important. The recent blackouts in some region countries in the world, it shows that to ensure the reliance of the intermittent renewables, you need the backup storage systems to ensure that those huge capacities are really very safely integrated into the national grid. Azerbaijan also announced 3 green energy zones in Karabakh, East Zangezur and Nakhchivan. They will be generally the basis for the nationwide energy transition to net zero. Zulfiya Khanım, you mentioned the COP29 outcomes, and Ambassador Sarabay mentioned the Baku Climate Action Week, and NCQG was very important. I would like to add that Article 6, the operationalization of the carbon markets during the Baku COP is also very important for the energy sector, energy markets. And we would be happy to work with our colleagues in order to ensure the sustainability of those initiatives. We also initiated 3 energy pledges. One was on the storage and grids. So in order to increase the pace of transition and ensure the reliability of the just transition, you need to increase the share of grids, but also to back up them with the storage system across the world. Second initiative would focusing on the energy corridors and zones, and I will talk briefly about this initiative as well. And third, but not last, is the hydrogen initiative, which focusing on the certification of the hydrogen, the types of hydrogen, and very important to create the hydrogen market globally. With our partners of Turkey, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, we're working on the different corridor projects across the region. It was mentioned the Trans-Caspian corridor, Central Asia, Azerbaijan corridor. During COP, 3 presidents of Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan signed intergovernmental agreement. We're happy that Asian Development Bank and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, they are supporting the soon-to-be started the feasibility study. So the feasibility study will focus on the assessment of the potential, which volumes can be exported from Central Asia, how Azerbaijan can add to that, complement that, and the potential route for that. And I think that the commercial figures would be also very attractive. We're also working on the other corridors, Azerbaijan-Turkey corridor through starting from Nakhchivan, but also recent developments in Washington, D.C., the historic meeting when there was with the facilitation of President Trump, the President of Azerbaijan and Prime Minister of Armenia, they have reached the peace agreement. So hopefully the Zangezur corridor, Trump route will be operational soon, and the mainland Azerbaijan will be connected to Nakhchivan, and it will also ensure the sustainable flow of energy resources from Central Asia to Europe, Turkey, to Middle East, and I think we're talking about the connectivity, so this is a very good initiative. There is also Caspian Sea, Black Sea, Europe corridor, and also East-West corridor, the land route Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and connecting to the Bulgaria, European markets. So all in all, we think that private sector involvement, investors are very important to ensure that those projects are going up on the sustainable basis. From our experience, not all the renewable technologies are the same. You were talking about the solar, wind, but even in the wind, the offshore wind and onshore wind, they have the different MPV and the IRRs. Sometimes you have to make sure that those facilities are very close to each other. When they are dispersed in the different parts, they are operating in the island mode. Azerbaijan is not the largest country, but still, even in our scale, we see that sometimes they need to be in certain places with the high radiation value, some high, the solar radiation, I mean, and very close to the grid to ensure that attractability for the private sector. I will stop here, and once again would like to thank the host and the government of Kazakhstan and Minister of Energy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very interesting intervention. Having concluded all the major interventions from the panelists, I really want to come back to the question that I was asking at the very beginning. Is climate change a con job? And one thing that I consistently heard here, and this is something that is subject of our joint statement, that, well, it is not. Climate change is absolutely a reality. There is a consensus within this part, at least within this part of the world, within these organizations, and I think we really can see that the tremendous leadership of the countries and of organizations, but at the same time a very balanced approach to how the climate-related agenda and specifically energy transition should be approached. I would like to really answering and giving some explanation to why these discussions are happening, and we've seen lots of interesting ideas in the web flowing around. Is climate change real? It is absolutely real, and the absolute majority of scientists agree on the fact that climate change is happening, and it is absolutely human-induced. It is not a cycle, it is not natural climate cycle of the changing climate. It is absolutely what is happening today is absolutely human-induced, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we are taking all necessary actions. We've heard all the consequences of climate change, specifically extreme weather events, thawing, glaciers, degradation, and so on. But at the same time, we've heard how countries are committed to the ideas of, to the principles of UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, and that in this part of the world, in these countries, absolutely committed to continuing taking necessary actions. At the same time, there was one very interesting idea that is energy transition. And when we speak about energy transition, it's not only about energy transition per se, it is about just energy transition. And this was something that we have been very extensively discussing during COP29, and specifically, for example, President of Kazakhstan, during his remarks at COP28 and at COP29, he announced that Kazakhstan would be interested in establishing the Just Energy Transition Partnership for Kazakhstan. So when we say Just Energy Transition Partnership, what does that mean? We understand that energy transition first is not easy, and we've absolutely heard that from the speakers that, for example, on the example of Turkey, that, well, there are opportunities of the energy transition, but there are also complexities in energy transition. We've heard that it is very impossible for us to immediately move away from traditional energy sources, and we have to find the ways how to balance the traditional sources with the renewables. We've heard about the importance of storage and transmission, and within the just energy transition, when we are speaking about introducing all these technologies, there are two fundamental things, social related aspects that need to be addressed. First, we understand that increased investments in, for example, grid modernization, storage, introduction of carbon capture and storage, and so of the batteries and so on, will actually be reflected on the tariffs, and how the increased tariffs are going to impact especially the most vulnerable groups of populations. And when we are moving ahead with the energy transition, are we creating the necessary social policies so that the most vulnerable population is not negatively hit? The second aspect is we have, especially in our part of the world, we have something called the monocities. For example, Temirtau in Kazakhstan, which specializes on coal mining. Within the transition, one of the big questions that will be arising is whether we are creating the jobs for these people, whether we have the policies for upskilling and reskilling, whether we are providing alternative jobs, but also whether these alternative jobs are at least equivalently paid jobs. Because if you are telling the head of household that he was earning $1,000, let's say, in the traditional energy sector, and now he's going to be green but will be earning $600, it's very difficult to make a very strong argument towards the green energy transition. So I think it is very important for us to make sure that when we are moving ahead with the decarbonization, and especially the decarbonization of the energy sector, we are counting and taking into consideration all the complex aspects of social and economic and environmental aspects, and we are finding the right recipe and well-balanced recipe on how to move forward. And with that, we are actually very well on track with our timing. We know that the member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, now and the League of the Arab States, have negotiated the joint statement on promoting the climate cooperation and sustainable energy. The joint statement, I believe, will be publicly available for everyone, for the public to get acquainted with. But I actually see that the joint statement does recognize and emphasize the firm commitment of the states to UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, to the importance of development of the low-carbon economies and decarbonization, of cooperation most importantly, and lays out some of the areas in which this cooperation should be built, including on financing resources, because at the end of the day, if there is no affordable, available and accessible means of implementation, it's very difficult for us to speak about any decarbonization at all. So I think seeing this very strong support of the countries to this agenda, I would say that some of the insinuations on the CONJOP being untrue, and the world continues uniting around the climate change. And we believe that not only the countries, but also the energy sector companies will be demonstrating the leadership in continuing to promote this agenda and continuing to promote the innovations. And with this positive note, I would like to conclude this session, this part of the session. If there are any questions, maybe from the public, if anyone would like to ask some questions from our distinguished panelists. If not, then I would like to thank all of the participants and all those who traveled to Kazakhstan for your participation. Welcome to Kazakhstan. I hope that you will enjoy your time here, not only during these sessions, but also really see the city. And I know that we have a joint photo and I think there will be a lunch. It's already a lunchtime, so I don't really want to be the person who is standing between lunch and the session. So without further ado, thank you very much for your participation and have a good day and relaxing weekend ahead.